All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Pete Nicholson. I'm the principal here at North Penn High School, and I want to welcome all of you to our course information night. You are, or should be, the parents of incoming 10th graders for next year, otherwise known as the class of 2022. It's unbelievable to me that we're up to the class of 2022 coming into North Penn in August this year. But we're really excited to have all of your students start with us come the fall. This night is intended to give you some information to help you guide your child through the course selection process. We're not going to be able to answer every question, but your child's home office staff is going to go through the basics of what you need to know for course selection here at the high school. At the end of their presentation, they're going to have some time for some frequently asked questions, and they're going to take some questions from all of you as far as what your concerns are and what you need to know moving forward. That question session is not meant to be in-depth, specific questions for your child. But if you have global questions about certain things, please feel free to ask. If you have a certain situation you're not sure about for your specific child, feel free to find any one of us after the session is over and ask those questions. There are questions that come up every year that are pretty sensitive to specific situations. We don't want you to feel awkward asking that in front of everyone that's here this evening. So again, please, after the session, please come up and introduce yourself to maybe your child's counselor or administrator and have those questions answered. We'll take the time to answer any question you have. It's my pleasure first to introduce, and I'll have them stand as I introduce them, the home office staff for the class of 2022. So if you have no experience at North Penn High School, every graduating class has a home office assigned to them, or they're assigned to a home office. That home office will be with them for 3 years while they're here at North Penn High School. So they will have the same counselor, the same assistant principal for the duration of their stay here at North Penn High School, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. This year's senior home office is K-25. When their seniors graduate, they'll be taking on the class of 2022 when they come to us in the fall. Ms. Mary Scott is one of the assistant principals, and unfortunately she had a family situation to tend to and is unable to be here this evening. But Dr. Marjorie Dieg, Dr. Dieg, is the other assistant principal in home office K-25. The counselors are Ms. McGurman, Mrs. Manalo, and Mr. Daly. They'll all be speaking and taking a turn as they go forward, but I wanted to make sure you put a name to a face there before we get started. So again, we're going to run through a lot of information, lots of questions. We'll answer everything we can. We'll answer specific questions after the session. And if you have things that you may not understand, there's lots online which will be covered. So I'm going to turn it over now to another face that I didn't introduce. This is Mr. Patrick Brett. He is our college and career counselor, and he's going to go over NCAA eligibility before we begin the other parts of the presentation. So, Mr. Brett.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. As Mr. Nicholson said, I'm the college and career counselor, Patrick Brett. The reason why I'm going first is because I'm supposed to be in the 10th and 11th grade section, so I'm going to quickly go over something and then rush over there. So, college athletic participation. You must hit the eligibility of what the NCAA says. Obviously, if you're an athlete, there are things that you have to do. There are courses you have to take and grades you have to receive in order to play while you're here at North Penn per the PIAA. But the NCAA has stricter rules. So my general advice is that you shoot for A's and B's in your core courses. Take courses that you're able to get A's and B's. If you're looking to play at the Division I or II level, this is extremely important. Based on what's behind me, the Division I and Division II all need 16 core courses. English, social studies, math, science, and the language all count. There are certain designations for each of those core courses. And you need a 2.3 minimum GPA to play at the Division I level and a 2.2 minimum GPA to play at the Division II level. That sounds very easy, but again, if you get a couple C's in there in your core courses, which are only worth 2 points, you could be looking at a close call towards the end of your high school time to be able to become an NCAA athlete. Real quick before I leave, my office is in K31, which is right down the hall in K-Pod. I have availability for family meetings on Wednesday nights, so 2:15, 3:15, 4:15, and 5:15 if you need it. A little early right now, but we will offer a ton of informative events, career and college geared, in the next coming years for your students. And I look forward to working with all of you. You can always email me, call me with any questions, but I'm going to turn it over now to the home office and allow them to talk about course selection. Thank you for your time. I don't have a clicker. I never have one.
Okay. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're in, but we are here, so it's good evening. And it's kind of ominous out there. As I was driving here, I saw all the clouds in the sky, and as I arrived, it just kind of all magically cleared because you're all here. So anyway, without much further ado, I wanted to talk to you about a very crucial year, which is next year for your child. During the 10th grade year, a lot of things happen. First of all, your son or daughter is going to be in a totally new building. They're going to have a set of new expectations from several different teachers whom they probably have never met. They will meet students from other buildings, other middle schools, who will all be coming into and composing the class of 2022. Along with that, they have their own existing expectations, their own set of abilities, strengths, and weaknesses, of course, just like any other human being. What you want them to do is strive to find a balance, just like in your own life, where they have a chance to be able to relax, have some leisure time, do extracurricular activities, and stay involved in different parts of their lives. So it's very important that you help them choose the correct rigor of academics that will be available to them. As you can see, one of the things that's expected is that they get involved in extracurriculars. And we have tons of clubs that are in the building. There's also opportunities for them if they want to take on a part-time job out of school, or maybe volunteer outside of school, maybe at a rescue or Manna on Main Street, whatever is out there. That's something they can do. Some of them are probably already involved in sports, 1 or 2, or maybe even 3. Maybe they want to continue that. Some of them might want to be playing an instrument or continuing to play an instrument, so they could be in band or orchestra. On top of that, they're going to be expected to take a workload, a course load, that is going to be distinctively more rigorous than what they might have encountered before. So you need to search for that balance with them, because you want a child who will remain happy, remain feeling successful, and feel that they are moving forward in time and progressing, not just in their learning, but learning about themselves. So challenge them academically, but don't overload. And as you can see, it's underlined. Okay, every child is different in terms of how they juggle the workload, how they deal with stress. What do students take in their 10th grade year? And once again, they have the 4 majors that are required. You've got your English 10, America and History 3, which is the final year of America and History. The math that's going to be recommended by their particular math teacher at the middle school. Biology, once again, that's a level. And then the 2 minors that are required in 10th grade is swimming and health decisions. That's part of the course load, and the rest is made up of electives. Okay, there'll be a minimum of 5 majors, and the balance could be minors. maximum 6.9 credits. So once again, just like in ninth grade, you're counting credits. Leveling difference between 9th and 10th. In 10th grade, you have a level 4, and that is offered in all the majors except for math. It is not available in 10th or 11th grade, the level 4. And once again, as I emphasize, look for balance. Keep in mind, it is a major transition year. Even though they're already in ninth grade, they're still in a middle school. Now they're actually transitioning to a high school. And these are the level differences. If you notice here in middle school, you're used to seeing 5.0. And then you have the 6th level, which is split into 6 honors and 6 HP. At the high school, we still have the 4.0 level. And bringing back the idea of balance, this is where you want to look at the recommendation from teachers and how your child fitted into that at the middle school and how they're going to thrive in that level if they stay at that level. There is an impression that there seems to be a trend. I'll give you an example, that when a student is in a 5.0 at the middle school, and they're in a range of B-level achievement, anywhere from 80 to 85 or higher, there seems to be a trend when they get to the high school in 10th grade, that if they are leveled in 5 again, they might slide down to a C level. So keep that in mind as you look at the leveling recommendations. Keep in mind the rigor is different. And know that there is nothing about being conservative. It is actually a smart move to remain conservative in terms of leveling, particularly this transition year. When teachers make recommendations, they base it on 3 things. One is the testing results. Another is homework completion, the quality of the work, and the rubric. So I'll ask you again, not to be repetitive, make sure you review those leveling recommendations. And the deadline for any changes is May 3rd. So if you could please review it way before that, so that if anything needs to be adjusted, the middle school counselor can adjust it. When looking at the levels, it's the course code that's important to look at. And if you look at the very bottom of the screen, you will see there's a course code, and the one that's an example is English. The 5.0 course code is 0005K for Keystone. 5 is the level. So going into AP course offerings, this is the advanced placement courses that some consider the best buy in town, because if your child is eligible to take an advanced placement class, it is possible for them to get college credit if they score at the end of that class, at the end of the year, something between minimum of 4 or a 5.0. What happens is the colleges look at that as kind of like a testament to indicate that your son or daughter is ready to take on the rigor of a freshman level college course. And the AP testing is usually done in May. If the student decides to take the AP test, they may be exempted from taking the final exam in that particular class. Sophomore AP courses that are available in 10th grade. You can see them listed up there. AP Seminar, U.S. History, psychology, computer science, principles actually, AP Stat, Physics 1, Art History, and Environmental Science. So we have quite a bit of APs out there. We have practically everything here. So now we're going to talk about credits, and I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. McGurman. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Daly.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in order to graduate from North Penn High School, students will need to accumulate a total of 23 credits, and those need to be achieved in a particular manner. So students will need a total of 4 credits of English, 4 credits of social studies. So students will be taking those and hopefully pass those each year. Students will need a total of 7 credits in math and science. That is largely driven by their Keystone Algebra 1 results. So if a student is not proficient on the Algebra Keystone, they will need to have 4 math and 3 science. If they are proficient, they can either go 4 math, 3 science, or vice versa. Students will need to accumulate a total of 2 credits in the area of arts and humanities. There is a description of what arts and humanities courses are on the program of studies, which is available on the website, the high school website. Loosely stated, it's almost anything besides a business course. Courses in art, elective English, family and consumer science, technology education, and world language. I think a lot of students satisfy this by the way of taking some world language courses. They'll need a total of 0.9 credits in health, so that's 3 years of health, which is usually their Health 9, Health Decisions, and then Health and Society in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. Many students do not need to take a health in their senior year because only 3 years are required. Physical education, a total of 1.2 credits are needed, so that's a phys ed class each year. As Ms. Manalo said, for 10th graders, that requirement is aquatics. And then the remaining credits are made up through elective credits, a total of 3.9 credits for a total of at least 23.0 credits in order to graduate. Some other basic information, there are promotion requirements. These are basic checkpoints to kind of make sure that we're on track to hit that 23 at the end. So at the end of 9th grade, students will need a total of 4 credits in order to move up to the high school, and that should be English, social studies, math, and science. At the end of 10th grade, they'll need 11 credits total in order to be considered a junior. And then ultimately, they'll need a total of 16.5 credits to achieve senior status. In terms of GPA and class rank, GPA is calculated at the end of each school year, and it will include 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and ultimately 12th grade. So GPA is calculated by using the 5 major courses that yield the highest number of quality points. So again, if you look in the program of studies, you'll see a chart that will tell you how many quality points an A, for example, in a 4.0 class would yield versus an A in a 5.0 class or an A in a 6.0 or AP class. So the 5 majors that yield the highest number of quality points are used in that calculation. So this kind of comes into play. So if students are taking 6 majors, oftentimes one of those majors can be dropped from the calculation, as long as it is not a course that is ineligible for exclusion. There are certain courses that need to be part of the GPA calculation. And in the program of studies, those are designated with a small IFE next to the course title. So courses like your required English, your required social studies, math up through and including Algebra 2 and your required sciences like biology and chemistry are ineligible for exclusion. So we have a lot of students. For example, today a young lady came into my office struggling with AP statistics. Fortunately for her, her other 5 majors are going very well. So for her, AP statistics is able to be dropped from her GPA calculation. However, it will be reflected on her transcript. So colleges will ultimately see that grade. And unlike some other schools, minors are not part of the GPA calculation. So things like health and phys ed, not part of the GPA, but are reflected on the transcript that will be sent out to colleges, military, etc. So we have a couple of sample schedules here, and our goal is just to kind of show you some of the options that are out there and perhaps the impact that selecting certain classes may have on the schedule. This is not meant to be a conclusive representation of all the options that are out there. I think if we showed you all the scheduling options, we would be here till Saturday, showing all the different combinations of things. But we want to show you some of the options that are out there so that as you're working with your students, with your children, you can kind of maybe put together a couple of different options. I can tell you my kids either came through North Penn or are coming through North Penn, and when I left to come here tonight on the dining room table, there were maybe 6 or 7 different options for what my daughter, who's going to be a junior, could take next year. So she's kind of looking at what all the different options are and how they mix with each other and what that does to her daily schedule. So I would encourage you to do the same. But this is a sample schedule of a student with 6.0 or honors biology. So we're just trying to show you what that day might look like. They would most likely have English 10 because it is recommended in the program of studies that the English level be at the honors level as well. So it is important that you pay attention to the prerequisites for any courses that you're selecting. They would also be in America in History or APUSH for their social studies class. There's a variety of options depending on where they are in the math progression. They would have lunch, and then because Honors Bio has a lab associated with it, meaning it meets 7 times per cycle, you can see that the next period would be a combination of 2 days of aquatics, 2 days of health, 1 day with a bio lab, and then most likely 1 day with a study hall. The remaining periods would be an elective major. If you recall, Ms. Manalo said you're required to have at least 5 majors. And then the final period would be either an elective major or a combination of minors that would get you up to a minimum of 38 scheduled class periods, which I believe is 6.2 credits. We generally do not recommend 10th graders to take a ton of study halls. We really encourage 10th graders to maximize their credit earning in 10th grade so that they have the credits in the bank to take advantage of a lot of the neat scheduling options that are available and unique to seniors. There are certainly cases where if a student uses their study halls effectively, there's an argument to be made for it, but generally speaking, we're looking probably no more than 2 or 3 study halls for a 10th grade student. So I think what we're trying to show here is that when you pick honors biology, there is a lab associated with it that's going to spill into another period. Here we have just a sample of what a student with a 5.0 bio class might look like. So there is no biology lab associated with this bio course. So this student, similar schedule, they'll have some level of English, social studies, math, and then the 5.0 bio. They'll have a lunch period, and then they'll have a period that will be 2 periods of aquatics, 2 periods of health, and then because they don't have the bio lab, they might have the option for a 2-period minor. And there's a plethora of minors to choose from in the program of studies. And then the remainder of their day would be an elective major, a second elective major, and or a combination of minors to get up to the minimum credit requirement. This is an example of a schedule of a student with an extended math course. There are several math courses that meet 8 times per cycle, such as geometry or algebra. Oftentimes, these are for students who are not yet proficient on the Keystone exam. So because this meets 8 times per cycle, there is extra credit that is awarded to the student upon successful completion of the course. And there's also a Keystone remediation component built into the course. So you can see just the example here might be English 10, social studies, the extended math class, which meets 8 times a cycle. So 2 of those periods will kind of spill over into the next period, okay? Because we have the 6-letter-day cycle. So 2 days will be health, 2 days will be aquatics, and then 2 days might be a math class. And then lunch, and then again, their electives would take on some form of a combination of either majors and or minors. And this is a sample of a student who might go to North Monco Technical Career Center. So for 10th grade, the students would start the day with biology. They would leave and then go to North Monco for whatever their area of study is. They're there for 2 periods. They come back to lunch, and then they go on about their day taking English. And then this particular student has the extended math class, as you can see. So it is possible to take extended math and North Monco Technical Career Center concurrently. And I think with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. McGurman.
Hi, everybody. Like Mr. Daly had pointed out before, North Monco takes up 2 periods in the student's schedule. So therefore, you receive 2 credits for that on your transcript and towards those 23 credits that you're going to need for graduation. I encourage, if you're looking or interested in North Monco Technical Career Center, there is a table out in the lobby there that you can speak with somebody from North Monco, and they're also having a Valentine's Day open house if you want to stop in and just see what they're all about and look at the clusters that are available for study. The Keystone exams that students will be taking in 10th grade, or many of them of your students will be taking the math component in 9th grade, but there's literature, biology, and Algebra 1. All the Keystone exams are taken in May. So definitely while your student is here at North Penn, they'll be taking that literature and that biology Keystone exam. Just in general, just an overall course selection timeline. Teacher recommendations at this point have been put into each individual student. The course selection is open to students through February 4th, so students can go in and look at, add those electives, see what teachers recommended as far as levels. I encourage you to have a conversation with your student, or as Mr. Daly said, lay out those possibilities on the dining room table and work together on that balance. It's not all about how many high-level classes, but it really is it is all about balance and, keeping everything and keeping what there is available here at North Penn and taking advantage of everything. So everything will be closed down on February 4th at 7 a.m. So after that shutdown, that's when the counselors start to work with the students individually. Your students will be working with the 9th grade counselors. So if you do have any questions, please take into consideration, give them a phone call. We up here at North Penn won't have access to your 9th grade students' courses yet until it rolls over in the summer. So if there's any manual changes that you need to take care of, again, call your 9th grade counselor and they'll help you manually change that in the computer. The deadline for changes is May 3rd, and that's a really hard deadline. So make sure between now and May 3rd, you look at it a few times, make sure, and we've probably used the word balance, probably 3, 4, 6 times already, but just make sure that the student is not overloaded. There is a very big change, a very big jump from the rigor from the middle school up here to the high school, and we just want to make sure that everyone gets what they need for their ability. Just some introductions to like the North Penn High School website and where you get to the course selection catalog. So the high school is just www.npenn.org. You go to Our School, and then down where the red box, just NPHS course selection. There's a few different articles to read there along with the program of studies to take a look at. I'm going to go through just some frequently asked questions. And then after that, we'll open it up to general questions from you guys. But these are things that we get asked all the time. Is a world language required for college? The answer is yes and no. It depends on what college you're looking to go to. Usually colleges require 2 years. Some require 3 years. But more the trend is also you can take those years of world language after they're admitted into the college. So if there's a particular college that you're thinking of looking into, I would take a look at and see what their admittance or requirements are to get in that particular college. Can I skip lunch to take an additional class? There is a form that you can fill out to have your student skip lunch. I highly don't recommend it. We feel all students need a brain break as well as that time to socialize and nutritionally rejuvenate their body. But if you or your student wants to skip a lunch, there is a form that you have to sign off on in order to make that happen. Will I be required to submit an override form if I want to take a class higher than my teacher has recommended? The answer is yes. But you can only override a course if your student meets the prerequisite and has an 85 or better as their final grade. So if you look in the program of study and the prerequisite is a A or above to go in that particular course and your student ends up with a 87, they are not permitted to override. Those prerequisites, a prerequisite cannot be overrode. But if your teacher in 9th grade recommends a 5.0 class, a 5.0 Algebra 2 class, for example, and your student wants to challenge themselves and take a 6.0, again, I'm not going to recommend it, but if you're choosing to do that and they meet the prerequisite and they have that 85 or above, there's signatures that are involved to do that override. Can I go to North Monco and take a JROTC class as a 10th grader? Absolutely. We do all kinds of different special schedules to give an opportunity for all students to take almost every class here at North Penn. So we would have to work with the individual student and look at the individual student's requirements, but we would try and fit everything in that your student is looking to take. And do I have to take aquatics? And the answer to that is yes. There are some, if there's a religious exemption, we take that into consideration, but aquatics is the required PE class for 10th grade. So at this point, this is going to be the end to our taped show. If parents at home who are watching have any specific questions, I would encourage them to reach out to their student's guidance counselor at the middle school, and I'm sure that they would be happy to help them.